All right. So then the second story that I have is about the Earn It Act. Have you guys heard about the Earn It Act?
No.
I have not.
So this is something that it was actually introduced, I think, originally back in March in the Senate, and right now it's in the Committee on the Judiciary. And the Earn It Act of 2020 is it's dude, I'm telling you, when it comes to this Orwellian shit, it just really just drives me nuts. Okay, so it says it's the Eliminating Abusive and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act of 2020, or the Earn It Act of 2020. So this bill revises the framework governing the prevention of online sexual exploitation of children. Among other things, the bill does the following: establishes the National Committee on Online Child Sexual Exploitation Prevention, directs the Commission to develop best practices for interactive online services providers, ergo Facebook and Twitter, to prevent the online sexual exploitation of children, requires interactive online service providers to certify compliance with the best practices or implement other reasonable practices to prevent the online sexual exploitation of children, or else they lose liability protections from claims alleging violations of child sexual exploitation laws, and replaces statutory references to child pornography with child sexual abuse material. All right, so this is obviously aimed at tackling child sex trafficking, right? That is what you are picking up from this. And it's dealing with online service providers like Facebook and Twitter, okay? Which
Yep.
I'm pretty sure they already have some sort of practices in in the works to be able to deal with child sexual material. Okay. So when you look at, like I said, right now it's just in one of the committees, but looking at the co-sponsors. So first of all, it's introduced by Lindsey Graham. So we all know that Lindsey Graham is just the greatest. You know, he's definitely not a neocon or anything like that, right? Okay, and then you have Dianne Feinstein. So you know if Dianne Feinstein's on it, it's definitely got to be, especially because she loves the kids. She's all about the kids, right?
She's the one that shouted down the kids, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why those kids have showed up to ask that she sign up to the
You're not voters, right? Isn't that what it was? You're not voters.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
And then you have Ted Cruz and Chuck Grassley. So again, we always have these bands of just the greatest senators that they, when they come together, they are definitely coming out with the good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So again, this is a bill. It's called the Earn It Act, and essentially the purpose of it, right, is to set up this commission that's going to set up these best practices. What the best practices are, it does not say. It just says that they are best practices that they're going to start implementing, right? So the purpose of the commission is to develop recommended best practices the providers of interactive computer services may choose to implement to prevent, reduce, and respond to the online sexual exploitation of children, including the enticement, grooming, sex trafficking, and sexual abuse of children, and the proliferation of online child sexual abuse material. So the commission is going to be composed of 19 members, right? So the agency heads are going to be the Attorney General, so our Bill Barr, okay?
Whose father hired Jeffrey Epstein, just to mention. Okay.
Yeah. The Secretary of Homeland Security, or his or her representative, which the head of Homeland Security, an agency that was created after 9/11, right? So, and we know about the sweeping measures that were implemented after 9/11. So having somebody from the Homeland Security, that definitely you need to have that person there. And then the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, which these three are not elected officials, okay? They are appointed officials, right? So again, it's never the people who get their say in any of these things. And again, it's just supposed to be that they're supposed to come up with these best practices, which they have, I think it's like up to 30 days after this is implemented to be able to come up with what those best practices are, right? And it says, so the authority of the commission, that's what I obviously wanted to see. So the commission may, for the purpose of carrying out this section, hold such hearings, sit and act at such times and places, take such testimony, blah, 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 blah. So the commission may secure directly from any federal department or agency such information as the commission considers necessary to carry out this section. So they can just get whatever information it is that they want, right? That's definitely what you want to have. Bill Barr, the Federal Trade Commission, and Homeland Security. You just want them to have free range of all the information that they want. So upon request of the chairperson of the commission for information under paragraph 1, the head of the federal department, wait, there was one other part, whatever. But so in other words, it's supposed to be that they are violating essentially the First Amendment, right? Because which is free speech, because they are essentially, they're going to give free range for these internet service providers to be able to censor whatever information they deem to be, you know, having to do with this online child sexual exploitation, right? We already know how they go and they censor at will now. So imagine.
It also says they're going to be held liable. They're going to be held liable if they don't do it, right? So that's the thing. They will. It sounded like they would be potentially charged with facilitating.
So try and make them.
Yeah.
Try and make them afraid, overly aggressive about censoring.
Exactly.
Right.
And then it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, right? Which is that you have the right to not be to decline a search or seizure without probable cause. And essentially what they're tasking these agencies or these companies to do is to constantly go and search through users' information in order to see if they can find anything to do with, so essentially it's like a free warrant, right? So they have free range to be able to go and look at all your information, and they're going to be censoring even more than they do now. And it's all under the guise of that we have to protect the children. It's always like this, and it's always this like very broad sort of like boogeyman, so that it's like terrorism, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's everywhere, you know. Oh, they're terrorists, so we got to go after them. Or, you know, it's like so unclear, it's so vague that it gives them these like powers, these blanket powers that I deem to be very dangerous.
Yeah. So they basically have seen the outrage over the Epstein situation and the Maxwell situation, and they've turned it into another weapon.
Yeah.
Right. The fear of that kind of thing happening. And chances are, you know, the government was essentially, you know, somewhat responsible for that, because the FBI had all this information back in the 90s. They freaking sat on it.
Well, they were responsible in more than that. I mean, they were involved in it. So some of them were, you know.
Yeah. It's pretty horrific stuff there, Daisy.
Yeah,
it's the stuff of nightmares.
And the fact that they're not talking about it, you know, they've already attacked net neutrality,
right?
You know, and now they're doing this. And again, I just feel that these are all just attacks on our constitutional rights, just because, and it's always under the guise that they're doing it for our best interests, right? Well, we don't know anything. We
you had
this nanny state.
You had me terrified just at the fact that Lindsey Graham and Dianne Feinstein were getting together to write some legislation.
Yeah,
I didn't even really need to see the content, but the content's even worse.
Exactly. I don't even know where this is going to go. And I have a feeling that this is going to pass because, I mean, when you have people, obviously it's bipartisan, right? And you have Dianne Feinstein, I feel like she's a pretty big heavy hitter. Like when she's on these bills, most likely it's going to gain some traction, right? Lindsey Graham being on something, like all these people being these big names on these bills, it carries some weight, right?
Oh, sure.
And so, and again, because they're doing it under this guise of, well, we have to protect the children, then
it's like, what, do you hate Dianne Feinstein or do you hate children?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why do you want children to be trafficked online?
I know it. Horrific.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.